You're about to see the VRS interface from the perspective of the rep. Now, the rep is the one out there in the stores, merchandising product, looking at inventory levels, training people, and for the purposes of this demonstration, we're basically going to pretend that this is the first day of the month. And the rep is out there using the VRS system, which has been optimized to be ready to rock and roll on all mobile devices. So the reps are out there using this on their iPhone or their iPad or their Android or their tablet or a laptop, whichever. Again, if this is the first day of the month, it's important to note that everything has actually already been loaded into the system by the VRS team. And by everything, I mean all of the merchandising initiatives, all of the training modules, and all of the scheduling in terms of territory. You know, reps have territories, and all of that is customizable from month to month. But for the purposes of this, if it were the first day of the month, all that stuff has been loaded into this so that when the rep logs in, everything is ready to rock and roll. So let's do that. I'm going to log in as the rep. And when I do, this is my landing page, my dashboard. I get it. There's a lot of buttons here. Don't be intimidated. It's actually very, very simple. The number one most important button on this dashboard for the rep is my reports. Everything else on this page is actually just a shortcut for something that exists within my reports. And after I'm done explaining my reports, you'll totally understand why we made shortcuts to everything else. So I'm going to hop into my reports. When I do that, we like to call this thing across the top the scoreboard. It's essentially a real-time progress report, if you will. Now, since we said that we're going to pretend that today's the first day of the month, it shows that I have 104 reports and not complete. I'm at 0% completion, and that I have visited 0 of my 25 locations so far this month. Again, the territories are customizable from month to month. For this demonstration, this rep has 25 locations in his territory. And if I scroll down, I can see all of those 25 locations. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that I'm going to hop into my first location. Okay, I'm going to go into this Westminster, California, Sam Ash. When I click into this, the scoreboard at the top now only reflects what's happening in this location. It says I have 5 reports in not complete. So here's the deal. As the rep, I know that I have to complete these 5 tasks or these 5 reports before I leave this location today. And each report, they're broken up into 2 different categories, merchandising and training. Merchandising is pretty self-explanatory. That's when the rep is looking at inventory levels, merchandising product, and all that stuff. And then training is when they're actually pulling the store staff aside to be able to train them on gear. So right now I'm going to click into my first merchandising report. And I just do that by clicking on this little magnifying glass here. You'll notice I'm getting that little universal no symbol down here. I don't have access to anything beneath this part of the report because I haven't read the merchandising guide yet. It says right here you must click that you have read and understand the merch guide before you can update this page. So by clicking this link, it actually opens the guide, and as I look at the guide, it gives me example photos for what it's looking for in the report, and it also gives me some guidance as to what it is I'm actually looking for when I'm going in to complete this report. So it's very simple. I click that I've read this, and then I can move on into the report. And each report is divided into 2 pieces, questions and pictures, and they correlate with one another. For example, this first photo is for the Model A keyboard. And the first question says, does this location have a Model A keyboard plugged in and demo ready? If so, upload a photo. If not, upload a filler image, click no, and use the comment section to explain. So let's say I've noticed that this thing is demo ready. I click yes, and then I would upload a photo. Now, since I'm looking at this on a computer, it says choose file. But if this was my iPhone, for example, this would behave a lot more like Instagram or Facebook. There would just be a camera icon here, and it would let me access the camera on my phone or the photo library on my phone. Since people are doing this on their phones, we also wanted to try to eliminate as much typing as possible. So here's a good example of like a pull-down menu. Are any of the keyboards in this location missing a power adapter? If so, click yes and select all that apply. So let's say I've gone throughout the sales floor and I've noticed that 2 of these are missing a power adapter. I click yes, and I say that Model B and Model C are missing their power adapter. Now here's the cool thing. When you view this demo from the admin perspective, you'll see how all of this type of data gets spooled up into a spreadsheet, giving the admin real powerful data that they can use to solve whatever issues might be happening out there in the field. Now, there is some typing. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. This here says, please click yes to enter general comments about this location, and it gives a couple of examples. But there are lots of companies out there that really thrive on knowing what the status of any location out there is. So it's very simple to click yes, and then to type your comments in here. I'm just saying test comments so you can see what that looks like. But anyway, the reporting is very simple from the standpoint that you're uploading photos and answering questions, and then it's just as simple as clicking submit. And by the way, there's this neat little function called save. We all know that reps get busy out there, and if they're out there and they get distracted or whatever, if they're midway through their report, they can click save and come back and finish it at a later time. Now what I'm going to do, after I've submitted my report, now it's time to move on to another report. So I'll hop into one of my training reports to show you what that looks like. Again, I just click this magnifying glass. Now when I do that, what's really important about this page is it shows me who I typically interface with at this location. So these are people that I have trained in the past in this location, okay? But it's saying that they need training on this specific product. So there's a photo of the product that I'm training here, and also tells me what I'm training here. Now, let's say I was going to train Samantha and Tony, but I also noticed that there's somebody new here that I've never trained before. It's as easy as clicking Add New Member. When I do that, I select which location they work at, I enter their first name, their last name, and their email, and I click Save. Now when I do that, it's important for me to pause here for a second, because this is the page that actually begins, it sort of plants the seed for a profile page. And you can watch this demo from the trainee perspective as well and see what that profile page looks like. But at this point, if I'm entering information into here for a person that I've never trained before, once I click Save, that person actually gets an email, and that email gives them all of their login information to be able to access their profile page. And again, you can see this demonstration from that perspective as well. But as we continue on as the rep, as I select people that I'm going to train, and as I've added new people, before I actually hop into the training itself, this is actually pretty cool. As the trainer, you have everything you need from this page right here. Okay, you have access to all kinds of great tools, from the guide. When I click on guide, it opens up my script, what I'm going to use to train the store staff on this product. This is what I use to list features and benefits and all that kind of good stuff. The other cool thing is it gives me an opportunity to, if I really don't want to read through that whole guide, there's a voiceover of that script that we just looked at.
This is the training guide for our new stave shell snare drum. This new Signature Series stave shell snare drum is truly amazing.
Anyway, you get the idea. The other thing you can do as a rep, again, if you're out there with your smartphone or your tablet or your iPad, you can click on video and show a training video on that actual product.
I'm alone and crying the blues. I'm so tired of paying these dues. Everybody knows I'm moaning.
Anyway, you can see how that would be very beneficial. You flip your iPad around and show that to the store staff to be able to give them an idea of the product that you're training them on. And that video could be of any component in terms of how that product is made, or how that product sounds, or comparing that product to a different product. Again, it's a very powerful tool to be able to use when the rep is out there in the store talking to the people who are selling the gear. So once I've accessed this and I'm familiar with what I'm going to train on, I select the people that I'm going to train, and then I continue into the report. Now when I do that, the report looks identical to the merchandising report that we just did. I click right here that I've read the guide, because that's what was available to me in the screen before this. And then what I do is I answer a couple of questions, and these questions are totally customizable, by the way. But in training modules, what we usually do is we say, did you complete this training module? Yes. And are there any comments that you'd like to make? But then for the photo requirement, we thought we'd have some fun, and we also thought we'd try to close that accountability loop. So for the photo requirement in a training report, it's usually just a photo using your phone showing the crew that you trained that day. Or maybe you want to lean back and take a selfie with a couple of the guys or gals that you trained. Or maybe you want to take a picture of one of the guys and gals with the product that you trained them on. Again, it's as simple as clicking submit, and then once that report is submitted, you get to move on to the next report. So the reporting section of this is really that simple. You go in, you look at your list, and I'll go back to all so you can see what that looks like. You move on from location to location, and just keep on submitting your reports. It's very simple. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the dashboard and show you why there are other shortcuts. Okay, we're going to get back to the whole it's the first day of the month thing, right? Let's say we're driving to our first location of the month and we don't know what we're merchandising, we don't know what we're training. It's really simple. We click on this guides tab, and there are actually guys out there right now who, when they're driving to their first location, they actually plug their phone into their stereo, click audio, and listen to the script for the training module that they're going to do to refresh their memory on what they're going to train on. They could also look at the guide from the parking lot of their first location, or watch the video. Again, it's really simple to see why we have a shortcut here for this. Now, this is probably one of my favorite parts about this dashboard, and the reason why we have this shortcut is because I tend to be really bad with faces and names, but that's a really important component to being a rep. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click on Sales Team. Well, what that does is it shows me by location. It gives me a little photo of the person by location next to their name, so that I can walk in and I can say, "Hi Jeff, hi Tony, hi Samantha." The other reason why there's a shortcut to this is because if we walk into the location before we ever start doing any of the reporting, if we notice that there's somebody new that we're going to train, we can add them here too. We enter their name, their last name, and their email address, and then we click Save. Again, when we click Save, that's what plants the seed for their profile page. Again, you can see this demonstration from the perspective of the trainee and see that profile page too. This is another one of those areas that would plant the seed for that profile to begin. But we also wanted to give the rep another personal touchstone, another way to be able to enhance his relationship with the people that he's training. So let's say we wanted to, let's say we're going to go talk to this Jeff guy. Well, if we click on this little pencil here, we've given ourselves an opportunity to have notes section. Now, this notes section is really important. As you can see, this guy's got a wife whose name is Sally. He's got twin daughters, Bella and Julia. He's a Beatles fanatic, a dog lover, and he likes the soy latte from Starbucks and pepperoni pizza. If I'm the rep, that gives me an opportunity to have that personal touchstone with the people that I'm in there training with. And so it makes things a lot more personal. And like I said, it gives me, the rep, the opportunity to really see who I'm in their training. And I can walk up and extend my hand and, "Hi, Miguel," and shake his hand. It gives me a real connection to these people, and that goes a long way. So there's just a couple other things I want to show. I'm actually going to jump around a little. This ranking thing, now this is interesting. We're pretending that this is the first day of the month and I'm already in 7th place, which is hilarious. What that represents is this gives me, everybody likes a little bit of friendly competition, right? This gives me a viewpoint to see where I stand amongst my fellow reps. This is saying that I am in 7th place right now. So if there are 7 reps, well, I'm in last place. If there's 50 reps, maybe I'm looking good. But this always changes and is real time. It gives me my status and tells me where I'm at. And again, when you view this interface from the admin perspective, you'll actually see how the admin can actually access this shortcut here to see who falls where and to see how they can reach out to help their guys. Okay? Now, the other button here that's kind of interesting is Archive, and I'm going to click on that. What that shows is, it shows all of my not completed reports, but if I wanted to, I could actually go back to last month to view my last month's reports. Let's say I noticed that the red guitar is out of stock in a certain location this month, and I really want to see if it was out of stock in my report from last month. This just gives me an archive, gives me a way to dive deep into any one of my locations, into any date range, to see what was happening with any products in the past. It just gives me an indicator as to really what's going on, and allows me as the rep to have my thumb on the pulse of any report of any location. So the last thing I want to show, and this is really cool, is this messages system. And there are 2 little spots that I can access this, through the shortcut or through the toolbar. Now you can see at the top here that it's red and it says that I have 1 message. It also says that I have 1 message here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. Now this is cool because what it is it's an internal email system. It says that I've got several messages, but this one is from the admin. Okay, so when I click on this, it says, "Hey Jim, just got a voicemail from management and wanted to pass along this heads up. Don't go into your Cerritos location this week. The main water pipe burst and flooded the entire sales floor. please wait until next week to visit that store. Now, that's interesting from the standpoint that that's good intel for me, and maybe that saves me from going out of my way to go to that location. It also gives me the opportunity to reshuffle my scheduling from the standpoint that if I'm not going to go into this location this week, well, I'll probably end up, reshuffling the order that I go to my stores so that I can still have a full week this week and also have the availability to be able to go to my Cerritos location next week. Now, the really important part about this messaging system is this is so comprehensive that it allows the rep to communicate with all of the admins, his boss or whomever. It also gives him the availability to compose messages to the VRS team, and it also gives him an opportunity to communicate with other reps. If let's say that this guy is getting his Cerritos store covered by a different rep because he's going on vacation, well, he could send a message to another rep to say, hey man, I know you're covering my Cerritos store, but I just heard from management that it's flooded and you shouldn't go there. And there's one other added feature that's super cool. This also gives the rep an opportunity to reach out and communicate directly with the trainee. And again, if you view this demonstration from the trainee perspective, you can see what that direct communication looks like between the rep and the trainee. It's important because it gives the rep an opportunity. Maybe he's got to reach out and say, hey, I'm usually in your store on Tuesday, but I'm actually going to be there on Wednesday this month. Does that work for you? If it doesn't, we need to figure something out so that I can get you trained up on some of the new product. So now you can see, just to recap this, My Reports is really where everything lives, and that's your opportunity to be able to hop in and do all of your reporting and submit all of your reporting so that everything's done before you leave the location for the day. You don't have to spend a whole day doing field reports. Everything's done when you leave. You can hop in and look at your guides. That's a shortcut to do that. You can watch the video there for the training. You can also listen to the audio for the training there. Sales team is your opportunity to refresh your memory about who works where, their face, their name. You can add new people there. You can take notes about people there. The messages system allows you to communicate with anybody, from other reps to the admins to the people you train to the VRS team. Archive gives you the opportunity to go back and look at past reporting just to sort of see where things stand if you're curious about stockouts or something like that. And the ranking is, like I said, everybody loves a little bit of friendly competition, so this gives you your way of being able to see where you stand amongst your fellow reps. Super cool system, and really allows you to be very productive.